Okay, now this one, question 5 says, put, put each of these words of movement in a sentence that shows its meaning. So you have a list of words here, letter A to J, okay, and each of them depict movement. Each of them mean movement. They're words of movement, either moving slowly, moving quickly, or twisting in pain, any kind of movement at all. You should use a dictionary. In fact, you will use a dictionary to find the meanings of these words, because I won't be giving them to you. In this video, I'm only going to be guiding you, giving you tips of words that can come before or after the word to guide your sentences, all right? Use a dictionary to find the meaning of each one. If at the end you have any difficulty with anyone, feel free to ask me to clarify further on it. But remember, you must first tell me what you understand from what you researched. Okay, so let's go. This one says amble. A person can amble to, or amble out, or amble past a person, another person, or something. To amble to amble out of, to amble past something. Okay, well, okay, to well like a wind, a twisting wind, right? To well around, to well across, to well in. Okay, tiptoe, to walk on the tip of your toes. You know, a person can tiptoe into or out of, like this, or tiptoe with pain. Okay, now dodge. To dodge, a person can dodge a coming vehicle, an approaching vehicle, can dodge a blow, dodge a slap. Okay, to dodge something. Saunter, a person can saunter down a street, or saunter across, like this. Shuffle, to shuffle, you can shuffle into or out of, shuffle around, shuffle about. Scuttle, you can scuttle away, you can scuttle about. Slither, you can slither through, you can slither around. Wreathe, you can breathe in pain, you can breathe with, you can breathe out. Yeah, that's basically the motto I can give you for wreathe. To breathe in, to breathe with. All right. And then skip, you can skip down a place, you can skip to a place, you can skip into a place. All right. Now the interesting one comes here. This is what I really want to pay attention to. You know, when we come across most of these terms, for me it's like a cliche, because very attentive students will testify that a lot of the things we come across right from grade 6, I've been mentioning them, and even from the beginning of grade 7, several times when we've had to deal with literary devices like figures of speech, metaphors, similes, personification. I've told you that at your level, the very few of them you've only come across are only scratching the tip of all the numerous figures of speech that we have in English literature. I told you this. And I told you that as we go higher, you're going to begin to, so many of them are going to start getting revealed to you. But regardless, I still mention them so that when you hear them, you don't get taken aback. And now we've come across one new one today, Onomatopoeia. I remember the day I mentioned this in class, a lot of you had this funny expression on your faces because of the way it sounded, or the way it sounds. Now, onomatopoeia is a figure of speech, just like personification, metaphor, simile, oxymoron, and all the other rest of them. So many of them you haven't come across, I know. So this one, another figure of speech in English literature, which means words that sound like what they represent. Words that sound like what they represent. These are all techniques that writers of literary pieces adopt to help make their writing more interesting, more vivid, to make it come alive to the reader. Okay? They spice up English literature. Now, what do I mean by words that sound like what they represent. For example, if I want to say the barking of a dog, but instead of just saying that a dog is barking, I say woof, woof, like this. Now, when I write woof, the word woof is an onomatopoeia, because it's a word that is written just the way it sounds. The sound that it's representing, that's just the way it's written. All right. Now, what we have here, it says which onomatopoeic. This with the IC, it becomes an adjective. Onomatopoeia is a noun. Onomatopoeic is an adjective. So it says, which onomatopoeic words would you use to describe the following sounds? First one is what I just used in an example just now. It says, the barking of a dog. The onomatopoeia for that will be woof. The noise of the wind, moan. Moan. See the spelling here, M-O-A-N, woof, W-O-O-F. The sound of flames, crackle. These words, you realize that if you've been very attentive in our reading classes, all the numerous stories we've read, you're going to realize that most of the writers, or in some of these stories, the writers have been using them. The crackling of flames. Okay, so we use crackle for the sound of flame. This exploding of bomb, boom. The breaking of a window, tinkle. The bursting of a balloon, bang. A collision between cars, crash. The sound made by cicada. The cicada is a kind of a insect, like a bee, some in that kind of family. It buzzes when it's flying, so that buzzing sound, a buzz, the sound of a cicada, or cicadas, I keep saying cicada, there's an S here, the sound made by cicadas, a buzz. A boat engine, a hum. A drill, wail. Now 6b says, what do the following onomatopoeic sounds remind you of? So now they're asking you to use your imagination, creative, think, be creative rather. Now the whistling, when you hear the word whistling, it reminds you of wind, right? Whistling sound, most times when there's a rushing, like a gush of wind or rush of wind, it's almost as if someone is whistling somewhere. Okay, so whistling, wind. Rustling reminds us of leaves. When wind is blowing against trees and there's so many leaves on them, you feel that you notice that as the leaves are moving, they make a certain kind of sound. That sound we call rustling, the rustling of leaves. This particular one, if you remember in our story on, I think it was how Tia Lola came to visit, the very last part of that story, when the boys invited Colonel Charlebois to come to their game. The morning of that day, the writer started by describing the environment, how the environment looked, the weather and the atmosphere, the colors of the leaves. And the writer went as far as telling us how the wind was blowing and there were rustling sounds from the leaves. So this is when I tell you that you see a lot of, you should have seen or you should have noticed that these words are used by writers to make their writing come to life, to make it very vivid and very interesting. Okay, so rustling reminds us of the sound made by leaves, moving leaves. Clattering, we use that for pans. When you have so many pans, metal pans, steel pans, knocking against one another, you say that clattering. Okay, clattering pans. Chattering birds. Birds chatter. And that, that talking, the chirping a lot. You say that chattering, to chatter like a bird or monkey. Pattering raindrops, okay? When raindrops drop to the ground, that sound they make, you call that pattering. Now this one, number 7, it says complete the images with your own comparison. Here answers will vary, so I'm not going to give you, if I give you, I know a lot of you are going to stick to it. Use your imagination, come up with something. It says complete images with your own comparison from your imagination. For example, I used this one. It says the buzzing of the flies. The buzzing of the flies was very annoying. It reminded her of. What does buzzing of a fly remind you of? When you hear a fly buzzing, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Write it down. For me, it's an unpleasant encounter with bees. The minute I heard the buzzing of the flies, it reminded me of something else that buzzes, the bees, an unpleasant encounter I had with them. Okay, this one says the body of a beetle was as green and shiny as. Now, when you hear green and shiny, as in the body of a beetle, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Write it down, and so on and so forth. Remember, once you finish, take pictures, proof of your work, and send to me immediately after you're done. I'm going to give you a clear deadline on the WhatsApp group. Good luck.